Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to continue with the second part of the third chapter in chemistry form 4 KSSM. So I've got kind of some feedback about my videos, and yeah, I would like to make some adjustment. But before that, I would like to apologize due to 2 to 3 weeks late of posting this video because I've been doing some other stuff. I apologize. But today I have a news. So starting from today, I'll be doing my video bilingually. So meaning that I'll be teaching in Bahasa Melayu and English together. So disclaimer, hopefully it's not going to be confusing, and I'll try to simplify as much as I can. And if the video is somewhat difficult to be understood, or you have a kind of hard time to understand what I meant, so do comment below and maybe I could improve in future. But today I'll give it a go, where this video going to be in Bahasa Melayu partially and Bahasa English partially. So when it comes to the explanation, I will say about it in Bahasa Melayu and Bahasa English. So starting from now, do give me permission to speak in both language. So saya minta izin untuk berbahasa Melayu. Okay. Jadi pada hari ini saya akan mengajar ataupun sambung mengajar untuk bahagian kedua, tajuk ketiga KIMIA KSSM, di mana tajuknya ialah formula kimia. So dalam formula kimia kita akan belajar formula kimia, formula empirik, kita juga akan belajar persamaan kimia. So in English we would say today we are going to learn chemical equation, chemical formula and empirical formula. So first, kita akan pergi kepada definisi seperti biasa. So, what is chemical formula? Apa itu formula kimia? So, chemical formula is basically a formula that is used in chemistry that shows the number of atom, that shows what atom, and that shows the name of atom in a compound. So, be it a molecule or ionic. Jadi formula kimia ialah satu formula yang digunakan pakai di dalam kimia untuk menunjukkan dalam sebatian itu, sama ada ia molekul ataupun sebatian ionik, di dalam itu ada atom apa, ada atom apa, ada sebatian apa dan apa namanya. Dan formula kimia akan selalunya diberi menggunakan simbol. Jadi sebagai contoh, kalau kita bercerita tentang atom, if we're talking about atom, so atom like we have learned in the previous videos, atom do not have charge. So atom tiada charge. Molecule juga tidak ada charge. So molecule is also uncharged. Yang hanya mempunyai charge ialah sebatian ionik ataupun ionic compound, only that possess charge. Therefore, for atom, for example, if I'm talking about magnesium, so if I'm talking about magnesium, it's going to be Mg. If I'm talking about aluminium, it's going to be Al. If I'm talking about lithium, it's going to be Li. Kalau lah saya nak cakap pasal klorin, so kalau klorin dia akan jadi Cl, kalau bromine dia akan jadi Br, kalau oksigen dia akan jadi O. Jadi itu adalah formula kimia untuk atom. Jadi formula kimia untuk atom ialah simbol yang diguna pakai berdasarkan jadual berkala unsur. So chemical formula for atom are basically the symbols that is used based on what is shown to us in the periodic table. So therefore, Mg stands for magnesium, Al stands for aluminium, Li stands for lithium, Br stands for bromine, Cl stands for chlorine, and so on. So, disclaimer, starting from now, I'm going to put a link where I'm going to share with you a picture of periodic table. It would be very much better. It would be better if you are having the periodic table together with you as we go through to this video, because I am going to use the periodic table from time to time. Jadi ada baiknya jikalau kalian semua klik pada link yang saya akan bagi di bawah, di mana link itu akan saya letakkan gambar jadual berkala unsur. Jadi apabila kita berbincang di dalam video ini, sambil kita boleh tengok jadual berkala unsur tersebut, supaya kalian tahu apa yang saya sedang cakap dan pemahaman kita akan lebih baik. Jadi sekarang, bila kita cerita pasal atom yang tak ada ion, dan tak ada charge. So, atom is uncharged, tak ada charge. Jadi magnesium Mg, Al, Li untuk lithium, Cl untuk chlorine, Br untuk bromine dan O untuk oxygen. Okey, itu semua umum tahu, dan jikalau anda sedang melihat jadual berkala unsur yang saya berikan di bawah, anda akan tahu apa yang saya cakap. So, now we're going to talk about molecules. Sekarang kita cerita pula pasal molecule. So, what about molecule? Molecule is basically a combination or a compound ataupun sebatian yang di mana non-metal ataupun bukan logam, zarah-zarah bukan logam ataupun atom bukan logam digabungkan ataupun disebatikan, ataupun kita boleh cakap mempunyai ikatan dengan lagi satu atom yang bukan logam. So, when a non-metal atom and another non-metal atom having this relationship, or we call as a bonding, so this will create a molecule. We've talked about it in the last video. So this will give us a molecule. And yes, for example, carbon dioxide, water, oxygen, bromine, and so on. Okay, now we're going to talk about the trickiest part. Kita akan bincangkan tentang bahagian formula kimia yang agak bukan susah tetapi agak pelik dan agak special sikit sebab dia ada charge, kan? So, this is a bit special because it possesses charge. So, for example, if we're talking about magnesium chloride, so dia akan jadi, it will be MgCl2. If we're talking about aluminium oxide, it will be Al2O3. Kalau kita cerita pasal kalau kita nak bincangkan tentang sodium ataupun natrium oksida, so Na2O. Kalau kita nak ceritakan pasal apa kita panggil tu, lagi satu sebatian ionik yang lain, sebagai contoh natrium sulfat, so Na2SO4 dan sebagainya. So, hari ni kita akan bincangkan macam mana kita nak dapat formula ini. Macam mana kita nak tahu dia MgCl2 ke? Kenapa bukan MgCl? Kenapa dia Na2SO4 bukan NeSO4 dan sebagainya. Pada masa yang sama juga, kita pun akan bincangkan pasal empirical formula. We're gonna talk about empirical formula as well today. So, empirical formula, this we need to remember. Empirical formula punya definition is sangat-sangat penting. Maaf. Dan maaf ya jikalau dalam percakapan saya ada bercampuran antara bahasa Melayu dan bahasa Inggeris. Jikalau susah untuk difahami, tolong komen di bawah. Saya sedia membantu. Okay, so for empirical formula, the meaning or the definition of empirical formula is a chemical formula. It is a chemical formula. Formula that shows the simplest ratio of the number of atom in a compound. Okey, dalam bahasa Melayu kita akan sebut sebagai formula empirik ialah formula kimia yang menunjukkan nisbah terkecil bilangan atom dalam sesuatu sebatian. Boleh? Jadi beza antara chemical formula atau formula kimia dan formula empirik ialah kalau kita ada formula kimia, contohnya kita ada, okey, saya bagi contoh glukos. Okey, kalau glukos C6H12O6, so C6H12O6, that is glucose. So if we're having glucose gonna be C6H12O6. So this is the chemical formula in form of molecule. So it is also fair to say this is the molecular formula untuk glucose. Okay, so molecular formula for glucose is C6H12O6. So formula molekul untuk glucose ialah C6H12O6. Kalaulah kita nak cakap ataupun soalan tanya ataupun kita nak tahu apakah formula empirik untuk glucose, what is the empirical formula for glucose? So now we can see that padam ya. So now we can see that we have C6H12O6. So kita ada 6 C, we have 6 carbon, we have 12 hydrogen and 6 oxygen. So by far the ratio is 6 to 12 to 6. So nisbah ni ialah 6, 12 dan 6. So apakah nisbah yang terkecil kita boleh hasilkan? Ini kita boleh bagikan dengan 6, bagikan dengan 6, bagi dengan 6. So dia akan jadi 1 kepada 2 kepada 1. Jadi untuk formula empirik bagi glukos akan menjadi CH2O. So the empirical formula for glucose is going to be CH2O because 1 to 2 to 1 is the simplest ratio from 6, 12 and 6 that we can produce from the real molecular formula. Therefore, by definition as well, chemical formula is a chemical formula that shows the real number of atom in a compound, whereas formula empirik or empirical formula is the one that is showing the simplest ratio of the number of atom in that molecule. So hopefully you understand. Stay tuned for the next clip. So now we're going to talk about ionic compound ataupun kita akan bincangkan tentang sebatian ionik. Jadi, seperti soalan kita tadi yang mungkin kita masih lagi tertanya, or some of you might question. For example, if I say magnesium chloride or magnesium chlorida. So, kenapa magnesium chlorida disebut sebagai MgCl2 dan bukan MgCl ataupun bukan Mg2Cl? Kenapa bukan ini? Why is it not MgCl? Why is it not Mg2Cl but instead it is MgCl2? So, today we're going to go through. So, hari ni kita akan bincangkan kenapa ya. So, sekarang when we're talking about magnesium, so magnesium, that's why hopefully you guys are having the periodic table next to you. So magnesium is the 12th atom, ialah atom yang ke-12 di dalam jadual berkala unsur. So when it is the 12th atom, the number of atom in the periodic table is equal to the number of proton. Oleh itu, kalaulah magnesium ialah atom yang ke-12 di dalam jadual berkala unsur, bermakna protonnya pun ada 12. Okay, so if magnesium, since you might have, hopefully you guys are looking at the periodic table that I've given you or other periodic table, hopefully you just have a periodic table with you. So it will be better for your understanding. So for example, now magnesium is the 12th atom in the periodic table. So therefore, when it is the 12th atom in the periodic table, the number of proton is also 12. And now we're talking about atom first. So since magnesium at first, it is in an atom form, jikalau dia di dalam bentuk atom, syaratnya apa? Sesebuah atom, an atom would have the same number of proton and electron. Meaning that, kalaulah proton ada 12, elektron pun kena ada 12. So if magnesium is the 12th atom in the periodic table, therefore, and since it is an atom, so 12 proton would also have 12 electron. Understood? So I repeat, since magnesium is the 12th atom in the periodic table, therefore it has 12 proton. Since it is an atom, maksudnya dia tak jadi ion lagi. It is not an ion yet, it is not charged yet, it hasn't released electron yet, it hasn't received any electron. Therefore, there is no charge. So, the number of proton and electron must be the same since it is in atom form. So, sekarang apabila bilangan protonnya ialah 12, elektronnya pun perlulah 12 sebab dia masih lagi dalam bentuk atom, betul? Jadi sekarang kita akan susun dia dalam bentuk susunan elektron yang kita selalu belajar tu, di mana dia akan jadi 282. So when we already know that the number of electron is 12, so we write them in an electron arrangement method, so or in a electron arrangement way that we usually do, which is 282. Now, to achieve stable octet electron arrangement, untuk mencapai susunan oktet yang stabil, susunan elektron oktet yang stabil, sekarang kita tengok dekat valence electron. Maksud valence electron apa? Elektron yang berada di petala yang paling luar. The electron that is on the outermost or the valence shell is the valence electron, right? So we look at the valence electron. Now we have 2 electron as the valence electron. Kita ada 2 elektron sebagai elektron valence. So adakah kita patut buang 2 ini ataupun kita tambah 6? So, kenapa kena tambah 6? Sebab to achieve stable octet electron arrangement, untuk mencapai susunan elektron oktet yang stabil, kita kena pastikan dalam petala itu mesti ada 8. Mesti ada 8. Jadi sekarang ada 2. Sama ada kita nak tambah 6 untuk jadikan dia 8, ataupun kalau kita buang 2, dia akan menjadi 28, which is kita punya petala yang terakhir dah stabil, dah 8. So, apakah cara yang kita akan pakai? Ialah cara yang paling melibatkan paling kurang elektron. So now, ini lebih kurang melibatkan elektron, di mana kita hanya buang 2 elektron daripada kita nak tarik 6 elektron. So, we are going to use this method. So, we are going to release 2 electron instead of receiving 6 electron. Therefore, okay, I'm just going to erase this. So now, since it is an atom, like I said, so there is 12 proton. Am I right? Originally, it would also be 12 electron. Therefore, to achieve stable octet electron arrangement, untuk mencapai susunan elektron yang stabil, oktet yang stabil, so daripada 282 kita akan jadikan dia 28 saja. So it releases electron, dia membebaskan elektron. Jadi dia membebaskan berapa elektron? Dia membebaskan 2 elektron. So apabila atom ni nak cuba capai susunan elektron oktet yang stabil, dia membebaskan 2 elektron. So sekarang elektron dia dah ada berapa? Elektron dah ada 10, sebab 2 tambah 8, 10. Proton dia berubah atau tidak? Proton berada di nukleus, jadi tidak ke mana-mana. So since it is already releasing 2 electrons, so therefore now, originally electron is 12, now it becomes 10. The proton would remain unchanged because the proton is in the nucleus and couldn't go anywhere. Therefore, the proton, it is still 12. So from this, you can see that the proton exceed electron by 2. So sekarang, proton lebih daripada elektron 2. So we have 2 extra proton. Sekarang elektron 10, proton 12. Kita ada proton ni lebih 2. Jadi disebabkan proton ni lebih 2, kita ada charge positif yang lebih 2. Sebab itulah magnesium Mg2+. Bukan Mg+, bukan Mg3+, tapi Mg2+. Kenapa? Sebab protonnya lebih 2. So, why is it Mg2+ again? So like I said, after releasing 2 electron to achieve stable octet electron arrangement, the electron would end up being 10 and the proton would still be 12. Therefore, in this comparison that we see, proton exceeds, or proton is more than electron by 2. So we have 2 extra proton which would give the 2 extra positive charge. Therefore, magnesium would be Mg2+. Okay. Okay, tadi kita dah belajar tentang magnesium. So, Mg kita letak kat sini. Mg2+. Betul? Kenapa? Proton lebih 2 daripada elektron. Elektron dia ada 10 saja lepas nak capai susunan elektron octet yang stabil. So, after achieving the stable octet electron arrangement, the electron would be 10, the proton would remain as 12. So, proton is extra by 2. That is why it is Mg2+. We have understand that. Now, we are going to talk about another ion. So for example, if I want to choose Cl, like because we are talking about MgCl2 just now, right? So Cl. So Cl, chlorine. Chlorine ialah atom yang ke-17. So chlorine is the 17th atom. Like I said, since it is the 17th atom, the proton is 17. The electron would be 17 since these are still in atom mode, or we could say it is still in a form of atom. So, like I said, so 287, this is the electron arrangement. 287 ialah susunan elektronnya sebab elektron dia ada 17, betul? Jadi valence electron or the electron valence is 7. So, would it be easier to add 1 electron or to throw away this 7 electron? Adakah mudah untuk tambah 1 elektron ataupun buang 7 elektron? Mesti, like I said, it would be easier to work with when there is lesser amount of electron that is being involved. So therefore, it would be easier for us to just add another one rather than throwing 7 out. So, from proton would still be 17, it wouldn't change. From electron 17, since we are adding another electron, apabila kita tambah 1 elektron, elektron akan menjadi 18. Jadi elektron pula kali ini yang berlebih 1. Jadi bila elektron berlebih 1, when electron exceeds 1 or more than proton by 1 electron, therefore Cl would have 1 negative charge. So Cl negative. Okay? So we have Mg2+ here and Cl negative. So now, both of these are what we call as ion. So this is what we call as magnesium ion. This is what we call as magnesium ion. Ini yang kita panggil sebagai ion magnesium. And this is what we call as chloride ion. Ini yang kita akan panggil sebagai ion klorida. Jadi, apa perbezaan yang kita nampak? Ini ion yang bercharge positif, manakala ini ialah ion yang bercharge negatif. So this is an ion that has a positive charge, while this is an ion that has a negative charge. They have their own specific name. So for any ion that has a positive charge, we call them as cation, not cation and not cation. It is cation. Dalam bahasa Melayu, kita eja sebagai K-A-T-I-O-N. Sama juga, bukan cation tapi cation. Okey, untuk ion-ion bercharge negatif, kita panggil sebagai anion. For any ions that is negative charge, we call them as anion. Okay, so to form an ionic compound, untuk menghasilkan sebatian ionik, satu cation kena berjumpa dengan satu anion. Perhubungan antara ini, apabila cation dan anion bergabung, terhasillah satu sebatian yang kita panggil sebagai sebatian ionik. So, when a cation and an anion is combined together, is bonded together, the bonding is called ionic bonding, which produces an ionic compound. Okay, now we are going to talk about why is it Cl2 and why is it not why is it MgCl2 and why is it not Mg2Cl or MgCl. So this is the story behind it. So now, like I said, seperti kita boleh nampak dekat situ, Mg2+, Cl negative. So we have Mg2 positive, Cl1 negative. So there is two way to do it. Kita ada dua cara nak buat. Jadi sekarang kita tahu Mg2+, Cl negative 1. Ada dua cara. Satu cara matematik dan satu lagi cara darab silang ataupun we could say crossover. Dia ada banyak nama. So it's up to you. So it's up to you guys to call it anyway, anyhow you want. So first I'm going to teach you about the crossing over. So now, what is the charge? The charge is 2. What is the charge? The charge is 1. So we cross it over. So this is 2 and this is 1. So how many magnesium 2 plus that we need? We only need 1. How many Cl negative that we need? We only need 2. Therefore, that would give you an MgCl2 ionic compound, which is magnesium chloride. So ini ialah cara crossing over. Not much of thinking, more in like memorizing that you need to cross it over. Okay, there is another way which we are going to use mathematical method. So how is it going to be? So like I said, Mg is 2 plus and Cl is negative. These two are ions. Kedua-dua ini adalah ion. Jadi bila ion berjumpa dengan ion, dia ada charge yang berbeza. Satu dengan charge positifnya, satu dengan charge negatifnya. One is negative, one is positive. So you guys learn in electrostatic what happened when a positive and negative combine together. First, they will attract. Second, they will cancel each other. So the negativity will cancel the positivity and vice versa. So the positive will also cancel out the negative. Okay, now when we say that already, so now we have positive 2, right? Put a bracket. We need to add it with something that we don't know, but times with negative 1. When we are cancelling each other, both are cancelling each other to a result where there is no charge left. So maksudnya, meaning that the total charge would be 0. Okay, the total charge when these two becoming a compound, the compound should not have any charge. Maksudnya dalam bahasa Melayu kita boleh cakap, apabila dua-dua ion ini, satu dengan positifnya, satu dengan negatifnya bergabung, jadi bila bergabung menghasilkan sebatian, sebatian itu tidak boleh ada charge. Jadi bila sebatian itu tidak boleh ada charge, kita harus fikir macam mana kita nak jadikan persamaan ini 2 tambah berapa yang darab dengan negatif 1 akan dapat kosong. So secara matematiknya sini akan menjadi 2. Sebab 2 tambah dengan negatif 2 akan dapat kosong. Sebab positif negatif akan jadi tolak. So 2 tolak 2. Betul? Oleh itu sini 1. So 2 plus ni perlukan 1. Mg ni kita perlukan 1. Cl ni negatif 1. Kita perlukan berapa? Kita perlukan 2. So Cl ni kita perlukan 2. So dapatlah MgCl2 dengan cara yang berbeza. So satu kita boleh pakai cara crossing over ataupun darab silang. We can use the crossing over. So basically we just put the charge 2 and this is charge 1. We just switch the place. So therefore the 1 goes here and the 2 goes here. Mg is required 1, Cl negative is required 2, so it will also become Mg1Cl2, or we can use this mathematical method. So it is up to you. It doesn't matter how you guys do it. Sebenarnya tak kisah pun. Janji awak kena faham kenapa MgCl2 dan bukan MgCl. Sebabkan charge itu. Bilangan charge itu menentukan bahawa berapa banyak atom yang lagi satu yang perlu kita gabungkan untuk pastikan charge sebatian itu akhirnya kosong. Okay. It's going to be a bit confusing, right? I understand. So, saya akan bagi lagi satu contoh. Stay tuned. Okay. Sekarang kita akan bincang kalau saya ada aluminium dan kalau saya ada oxygen. So, now I'm going to talk about if I'm having aluminium and oxygen. So what is aluminium and oxygen gonna be? So kita tahu ada aluminium, nama dia akan aluminium lah seperti biasa. Kalau ada oksigen dia akan jadi oxide ataupun oksida. Jadi apabila aluminium bertindak balas dengan oksigen akan menghasilkan aluminium oksida. So when aluminium react with oxygen, it will produce aluminium oxide. So now we want to know what is the chemical formula for aluminium oxide. Therefore, First, what is aluminium? Aluminium is the 13th atom. In periodic table. Betul? So, aluminium is the 13th atom in the periodic table. Jadi, so there is 13 proton and there is 13 electron. Like I said, the electron would be arranged in a way to 8-3, right? Jadi, aluminium ialah atom yang ke-13, oleh itu proton kita ada 13 dan elektron pun ada 13 dan susunan elektron dia ialah 283. Clear? Jadi, sekarang adakah sesuai untuk kita buang saja ini 3 elektron ataupun kita nak tambah 5 elektron? Pilih yang mana yang kurang kerja. Jadi yang kurang kerjanya ialah tolak 3. So it would be less burdensome ataupun, or we could say it would be easier to throw away these 3 rather than to attract 5 electrons from elsewhere. So what we're going to do is we are going to release 3 electrons. So when we're releasing 3 electrons, the proton would still be 13, but the electron would be 10. Therefore, the proton is extra 3. So, proton masih lagi 13, elektron dah jadi 10 sebab kita dah release tadi. Untuk apa? Untuk mencapai susunan elektron oktet yang stabil. Jadi, sekarang bila proton dah jadi 3 lebih daripada elektron, dia akan jadi Al3+. Kenapa 3+? Sebab positifnya, protonnya berlebih 3. Faham? So now, why is it Al3+? Because the proton exceeds electron by 3. Therefore, we have 3 extra positive charge. Therefore, this ion, this aluminium ion, this cat ion is Al3+. Now, we're going to talk about oxygen. So, sekarang kita akan cerita pasal oxygen. Oxygen ialah atom yang ke-8. So, apabila oksigen ialah atom yang ke-8, protonnya pun ada 8, elektronnya pun ada 8. So, dia akan jadi 26. Susunan elektron akan menjadi 26. So, now, the proton of electron, of course, is going to have 8 proton. And at the same time, because it is an atom still, so we also have 8 electron. Therefore, the electron arrangement is 2,6. Okay, now, when there is 2,6, is it easier to throw away the 6 or to add another 2? So we would take the latter. Kita akan ambil yang lebih mudah, which is kita akan tambah saja 2. Jadi, asalnya proton ada 8 dan elektron ada 8. Sekarang, untuk mencapai susunan elektron oktet yang stabil, or to achieve stable octet electron arrangement, the electron we need to add 2 electron to this electron arrangement. Maksudnya, meaning that we need to add another 2 electron. So, now the electron would be 10 because after adding 2, the electron would be 8. So now, after adding 2, electron would be extra 2, therefore giving the oxygen ion as, or we call it as oxide ion. So the oxide ion would be O2 negative. Why 2 negative? Because electron is extra 2. Okay, now Al is 3 plus and O is 2 negative. You can still use the mathematical way, which is like the algebraic way a bit, or you can also use the, what we call it, the crossing over. So what is the charge for aluminium? It's 3. What is the charge for oxide? It's 2. So we cross it over. This is 2, this is 3. So Al2O3. So therefore, the chemical formula for aluminium oxide is Al2O3. And that's it, guys. Okay, so now we have basically done with chemical formula, and now we're going to move on to empirical formula. Stay tuned. So, before we're moving on to empirical formula, I would also like to talk about these charges, these ions. So, sebelum saya bergerak kepada formula empirik yang ditunggu-tunggu, so saya nak bincangkan tentang 4 ion ni. Ramai pelajar yang rasa macam, kenapa dia ion macam ni? Tak ada pun kita belajar, tak boleh pun pakai cara tadi. Yes, these ions, we can't use the method that I've just taught you just now. Because, why? If you see here, it is a combination of more than one atom. Whereas just now, kita hanya ada Mg dengan Cl. So, Mg dengan atom Mg-nya dan Cl ialah atom Cl-nya. So, it doesn't have any other atom that is involved in the structure. But now, for this, which is carbonate, nitrate, sulfate and ammonium. Okay, so carbonate, nitrate, sulfate and ammonium. Okay, untuk ion karbonat, nitrat, sulfat dan ammonium, kita tak boleh nak hafal ataupun pakai cara tadi. We cannot use the method that I've taught you just now. So, how to understand? First, there is the easiest way is you need to memorize, which is these are the commonly used, and these are the commonly used in exam, and basically these are the only ions that if you're not using the method that I've taught you just now. So kalau lah kita tak boleh nak pakai cara yang tadi di mana kita kira berapa elektron dia yang dah tambah, berapa elektron yang dah kurang. So, ini sahajalah yang kita kena hafal setakat ini dalam silibus kalian. So, in your syllabus, these are the only that we would need to memorize. Okay. Sekarang, tetapi mungkin ada yang nak tahu juga why CO3 2 negative. Kenapa dia 2 negative? Sebab C ni non-metal. C is a non-metal. O is also a non-metal. I remembered that I said just now, a non-metal and a non-metal bonded together would give us a molecule. Exactly. So, sekarang kita ada carbon, kita ada oksigen. Betul. Carbon bukan logam. Oksigen pun bukan logam. Tetapi kenapa ada charge? Kenapa menghasilkan ion juga? So, benda ni akan diceritakan. Hal ini ataupun tajuk yang saya akan ceritakan ini akan berada di chapter yang akan datang, di mana chapternya bernama ikatan. So, it is in the bonding chapter. So, now, kita pernah dengar ini. We know that this is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a molecule. Carbon dioksida ialah molekul. Betul? Kita tahu. So, susunan, bukan susunan elektron dia, tapi susunan atom dia ataupun struktur or the structure of carbon dioxide ialah macam ni. So, carbon, double bond, oxygen, double bond, oxygen. Kenapa double bond? Tunggu. Dalam tajuk ikatan nanti kita akan belajar kenapa. Sekarang, ingat tak kita cerita tadi? Oxygen punya ion ataupun oxide ion berapa? 2 negatif, betul? Jadi, dalam tajuk ikatan nanti, korang akan belajar ataupun kalian akan belajar di mana ion oksida ini, this oxide ion will form a bond. This bond is a special bond that we call it a dative bond. Will be talk about more in the chapter. So now I'm just going to tell you, because of this dative bond between the oxide ion to this whole structure, yang di mana this is a molecule, right? So this is a carbon dioxide molecule. This molecule has no charge. The only that has charge is this oxygen, which is the oxide ion. So when this oxide ion form a bond called dative bond to the carbon in the carbon dioxide, this will produce CO3. But now, the one that is being bonded to this carbon dioxide that has no charge is O2 negative. Therefore, when this O2 negative, when this oxide ion join in, it will give the whole thing to negative charge. Jadi, disebabkan ion oksida ini bergabung secara datif kepada carbon dioxide ni punya molekul, dia menyebabkan CO ada 3. Tapi dia menyebabkan semuanya ada 2 negative charge mengikut ion oksida yang menumpang pakai dative bond. Okay? So, samalah juga berlaku dalam nitrat, samalah juga berlaku dalam sulfat, sama juga berlaku dalam amonium. Sebab kita tahu NH4 ialah amonium. NH3 ialah amonia. NH3 ini kita bertindak balas ataupun ada dative bond juga. There is a dative bond NH3 with a hydrogen ion. So this is added in here through dative bond as well, which would give you NH4, but then the whole thing would be positive 1 because of the charge from the hydrogen bond that is datively bonded to the ammonia. Okay, got it? So faham? Disebabkan ion hidrogen yang menumpang ataupun yang berikat, yang terikat secara datif kepada molekul amonia ni, dia bagi charge dia kepada keseluruhan, menyebabkan keseluruhan NH4 ini mempunyai satu positive charge. Boleh? Okey, sekarang baru kita cerita pasal empirical formula. Okay, now we're going to talk about empirical formula. Sekarang kita akan cerita tentang formula empirik. Kita dah tahu tadi, what is empirical formula? Apa itu formula empirik? Formula empirik ialah formula kimia yang menunjukkan nisbah yang terkecil untuk bilangan atom di dalam sebuah sebatian. Betul? Jadi sekarang, dalam selalunya soalan ataupun dalam silibus ataupun sebenarnya dalam kimia itu sendiri, kita boleh dapatkan chemical formula, of course. Formula kimia kita akan selalu dapat. Daripada formula kimia tersebut, from the chemical formula that we've got, we can make it into an empirical formula, which I've shown you. For example, for glucose, untuk glukosa, we have C6H12O6. Untuk glukosa tadi kita dah cerita, ada C dia ada 6, karbon ada 6, hidrogen ada 12, oksigen ada 6. Kita jadikan dia disbah terkecil dan dia akan jadi CH2O. Itu salah satu cara. Okey, ada lagi satu cara. So, ini ialah bagaimana kita tukarkan formula kimia kepada formula empirik untuk molekul. This is how we are going to change a chemical formula which is in a form of molecule. So, it is also fair to say molecular formula. So, to change the molecular formula to empirical formula, this is the way where we just divide with a common factor. So now the common factor is 6, you divide by 6, divide by 6 and divide by 6, you get 1, 2 and 1, right? So that is the way. This is what we usually do for molecules. Ini yang kita biasa buat untuk molekul. Jadi kita hanya bahagikan dengan faktor sepunya, di mana sini bagi 6, bagi 6, bagi 6 jadi 1, 2, 1. Betul? Okey, sekarang there is also another way yang khas boleh juga kita pakai untuk ionic ataupun untuk sebatian ionic. Okey, ini akan dibincangkan sekejap lagi. Stay tune di klip akan datang kerana ia memerlukan penerangan yang lebih lanjut. Kita akan terus sekejap pergi kepada kalaulah kita dah ada empirical. Kita dah ada empirical formula, kita nak cari chemical formula. Dia akan bagi 3 information. So, dia akan bagi 3 maklumat. So, there will be 3 information given to make sure that you can change an empirical formula to chemical formula. First, it must be the empirical itself. Right? It must be the empirical formula itself. Mestilah dia kena bagi formula empirik dia. Betul? Yang kedua, dia kena bagi RAM. Ataupun kita dah belajar jisim relative atom. Betul? Jisim relative atom ataupun relative atomic mass. What relative atomic mass? Ataupun jisim relative atom apa? So, jisim relative atom yang ada di dalam empirical formula itu. Okay, boleh? Jadi, the question must give you, or if the question doesn't give you, you need to find out what is the relative atomic mass of the atom in the empirical formula. Where to get it? It is also in the periodic table, so you can check it out. So, and then the 3, you must have your equation. Well, it does sounds like a math, yes, because it does involve some algebra. Okay, now for example, we have empirical formula of CH2O. Okay, we have the empirical formula of CH2O. Kita ada formula empirik CH2O. Betul? Jadi, Itu maklumat pertama dah ada. Dan dalam soalan pula dia bagi jisim relative atom untuk karbon ialah 12, untuk hidrogen ialah 1 dan untuk oksigen ialah 16. Betul? Okey. Dan dia pun kena bagi apakah jisim, ini yang special, ini yang paling penting. Apakah jisim molar chemical tersebut? Maksudnya sekarang kita dah bincang, we already know that the empirical formula is a simplified version of the chemical formula, right? So the empirical formula is the one that shows the simplest ratio ataupun nisbah yang termudah untuk chemical formula ataupun formula kimia yang sebenar. Jadi dalam maklumat dia, 3 yang saya maksudkan dengan equation untuk kita hasilkan equation tu nanti ialah kita kena tahu jisim relative molecule ataupun jisim relative formula, or in English we would say the RMM or the RFM of the real substance. So contohlah kalau the real substance tu apa? Contohnya glucose. So berapakah berat glucose? Kalau contohlah substance dia ialah hydrochloric acid contohnya. So apakah jisim molekul ataupun jisim formula untuk hydrochloric acid? So itulah dia. So sekarang kena ada jisim molar. So there must be a molecular mass. So contoh dalam soalan ni dia bagi molecular mass kita ialah 180. Okey. Jadi sekarang kita dah ada jisim relative atom, karbon 12, hidrogen 1, oksigen 16. Kita dah ada jisim molar untuk bahan ini yang sebenar. Jisim molar bahan ini ialah 180 gram per mol. Jangan lupa unit. Okey, jadi macam mana daripada empirical formula kita nak dapatkan chemical formula? So how from empirical formula we are going to get chemical formula? So we need to insert a bit of algebra. So now we understand that the empirical formula, which is CH2, is the simplified, CH2O is the simplified version, right? So the simplified version, so now we need to find the real version. So kita kena darab, so we need to multiply it by an unknown. So the unknown is going to be the multiplier. So the multiplier n ini, nilai n ini akan kita darabkan ke dalam semua untuk hasilkan chemical equation sebenar. So this n will be, when we have got the value of n, we are going to multiply it to each and every atom here to find out the real equation, or the real chemical formula. So sekarang it is CH2O, we times it by n, the total mass should be 180, right? Okay, now what is the mass of carbon? Apa berat carbon? 12 tambah dengan 2 darab 1. So 2 tambah dengan oksigen 16 darab dengan n sama dengan 180. Berapa ni? So ini, this would give you 16 plus 12 would give you 28. 28 plus 2 would give you 30. So 30n equals to 180. N would give you a 6. Therefore when n is a 6, so CH2O darab dengan 6. So now the multiplier is 6. Therefore it will give you C6H12 and O6. So therefore, if the empirical formula is this, you just multiply it by n equal to the molar mass that should be given in the question, and then work it as an algebra, find the value of n, and you multiply it back into the empirical formula, which is, for example, CH2O, you times it by 6, so C6H2 times 6, 12 or 6. Understood? I'll give you another example. Okay, another example. So, like I said, 3 main information need to be given. The first is the empirical formula. So 3 maklumat penting yang kita kena ada. Yang pertama, mesti formula empirik itu sendiri, di mana dalam kes ini ialah CH2. So the empirical formula is CH2. Kita pun kena ada molecular formula ataupun GC molecular ataupun GC molar molecule tersebut. So the molecular mass ialah 56. Okay, kita pun dah ada information tu, dan kita ada RAM, or we have the RAM, which is the relative atomic mass of carbon and hydrogen respectively, ataupun nama Melayu kita panggil sebagai GC relative atom. So setelah kita ada tiga-tiga ni, after we already have these 3, like I said, the first step is you have this empirical formula and you multiply it by n. That's the first step. You equal it by the molecular mass, which is 56. Okay, second, what is the mass of atom carbon? So it is 12 plus 2 times 1. Right? Okay, now solve this. 12 plus 2 would give you a 14. 14n equals to 56. Therefore, n would be 4. Okay, when you have n equals to 4, therefore CH2 is multiplied by 4, which would give you C4H8. Therefore, C4H8 is the molecular formula, while CH2 is the empirical formula. Okay, got it? So this is a clear example. Just like this, just now was for glucose, and this is for what we call as butene, which you also learn in Form 5. Okay then, so now we're gonna go how to find the empirical formula for an ionic compound, or basically any other compound rather than this method. So if we are not given the molecular mass, but we are just gonna be given with what is the reactant and what is the product and the mass, and that's it. So how are we going to find? Stay tuned. Okay, so sekarang kalau lah kita diberi soalan macam ni, so if we're given this kind of question, so in a sample 6.24 gram of potassium and 1.28 gram of bromine are present. So dalam sebuah sampel 6.24 gram kalium dan 1.28 gram bromine dijumpai. So cari formula empirik sebatian tersebut. Find the empirical formula for the compound. So now I would personally recommend you guys to answer this in this box form. Why? Because first, it is clearer to see and it's hard for you to make mistake. So first, we are going to list. Kita akan listkan dahulu. Kita akan senaraikan dahulu. Apakah jisim kepada kalium? What is the mass of potassium? 6.24 gram, right? Tulis saja dekat dalam ni. So just write it there. So what is the mass of bromine? Is going to be 1.28 gram here as well. Okay, now we need to find the mole. So macam mana kita nak cari mole? So mole dia ialah 6.24 gram bahagi. So dia dah bagi relative atomic mass. Dia dah bagi jisim relative atomic. So it is given, the relative atomic is already given. So you just divide it by 39, and here 1.28 divided by 80. What would you get? So now what you would get 0.16 and also 0.16. So the number of mole, or the mole of potassium, is 0.16. Bilangan mole untuk kalium ialah 0.16 dan bilangan mole untuk bromine juga 0.16. Okay, so when that happen, macam mana kita nak cari ratio? Untuk cari ratio, to find the ratio, we need to use the number of moles. So this is 0.16 and 0.16. So between these two, since it is the same thing, so we just divide it by 0.16 and 0.16, which would give you 1 and 1. Therefore, the ratio is 1:1. Menunjukkan, this shows that the number of atom needed for potassium is 1. Jadi maksudnya apabila nisbah dia ialah 1:1, bilangan atom kalium yang kita perlukan ialah 1, bilangan atom bromine yang kita perlukan 1 juga. Therefore, oleh itu, empirical formula, or the formula empirik ataupun empirical formula ialah KBr, di mana 1K dan 1Br. Boleh? So inilah cara yang saya recommend ataupun saya cadangkan anda pakai. Okey, kita akan bincangkan lagi satu contoh. Okay, for example, if we have this kind of question, contohnya kita ada soalan macam ni. In a sample 11.9 gram of tin, dalam bahasa Melayu stannum, jika dalam sebuah sampel terdapatnya 11.9 stannum dijumpai di dalam 26.1 gram stannum klorida, so what is the empirical formula? Apakah empirical formula yang ada di dalam stannum klorida? So maksudnya dia nak cari apakah formula empirik untuk stannum klorida. So sebelum apa-apa kita perlu labelkan dekat sini. So untuk cari stannum klorida, kita mesti ada stannum dan kita kena ada klorida. Mesti nama di sini perlu atomnya, bukan sebatian. So we wouldn't write the compound here, but rather than an atom here and atom here. So we know that tin chloride would have tin ion, which is originally from the tin atom, and also chloride ion, which is from chlorine atom. So as usual, we are going to find the mass, the mole, the ratio, and the number of atom that is going to be present in the empirical formula. Maksudnya macam biasa kita kena tulis jisim, mole, nisbah dan bilangan atom yang akan ada di dalam formula empirik tersebut. So sekarang, apakah jisim stannum? What is the mass of stannum? Dia dah sebut dalam soalan di mana jisimnya ialah 11.9. Jadi, masalahnya sekarang, berapakah jisim Cl? Berapakah jisim klorida? So, what is the mass of chloride? We already know that stannum klorida ialah 26.1. Stannum punya berat ialah 11.9. So, stannum klorida, maksud keseluruhan, ialah 26.1. So, the mass of the whole stannum chloride is 26.1. And the mass of stannum is 11.9. Therefore, we assume that if the whole thing is 26.1 and the stannum, which is the metal part or the metal atom in the whole thing, is made out of 11.9 gram, so the rest pastinya chloride. So the rest would be chloride. Therefore, we minus this. So this is stannum chlorida. So this is stannum chloride. We minus it with the mass of stannum. So kita akan tolak jisim tin. So the mass of tin chloride, we minus it with the mass of tin to get the mass of chloride. Ataupun kita nak cari jisim klorida. So berapa? Kita akan dapat 2, 4, 1. So kita akan dapat 14.2 gram. So that is why we are going to put 14.2 gram here. Why? Because we assume that this is the mass of tin chloride. We minus it with this. So tin chloride minus tin, you get chloride, right? That is basically our equation. So tin chloride minus the tin, you get chloride. So stannum chlorida, tolak stannumnya, tinggal chloridanya. So 26.1 minus 11.9, you get 14.2. Find the mole macam biasa, 11.9 divided by 119. Why is it divided by 119? Because the relative atomic mass ataupun jisim atom relatifnya ialah 119 untuk tin. Dan ini 14.2, we divide by 35.5. Why? Because the relative atomic mass ataupun jisim relatif atomnya ialah 35.5 untuk klorida. Ini kita akan dapat 0.1, ini kita akan dapat 0.4. Okey, jadi mol untuk tin ialah 0.1 dan mol untuk klorida ialah 0.4. Jadi nak cari nisbahnya macam mana? Ini molnya 0.1, ini molnya 0.4. Macam soalan tadi, beforehand we have the exact same mole. So there shouldn't be a problem. But now we have a different mole value. So what we're going to do is we are going to divide between these two who is the lowest. So the lowest is this. So we divide with the lowest. So 0.1 divided by 0.1, 0.4 divided by 0.1. So this would give you 1, this would give you 4. Therefore, the ratio for tin and chloride is 1 to 4. Number of atom, bilangan atom tin yang diperlukan ialah 1. Bilangan atom chloride yang diperlukan bilangan atom klorin yang dikeluarkan ialah 4, di mana kita akan dapat formula akhirnya ialah SnCl4. So therefore the final empirical formula that we're going to get 1Sn and 4Cl. So it's going to be SnCl4. Okay, got it? So now we basically have finished chemical formula. We have also finished empirical formula. So now we're going to enter to a massive part in chemistry, which is forming the equation itself. So there'll be 3 things that we are going to learn later. So we are going to talk about how to form the equation, how to balance the equation, and next how to calculate using the equation. Stay tuned.